Well, thank you everyone for joining us for our webinar. This is part of our Green Industry Insights series of webinars that we're doing. And we've got a special topic today, labor challenges and opportunities. We felt this would be a real good one to address right now. Not only given that, we're right in the midst of the spring kind of busy season, but also with just all the things that have kind of changed this year as compared to last year. We really wanted to dive in with one of our customers who has a ton of insight here. And figure out, how kind of they've addressed recent challenges, but also taken advantage of some opportunities they've seen as well. So just to get started, just some basics if you're kind of new to Zoom or our webinars, what you can do to view basically kind of both of us talking in addition to the slides is you can go into and do side-by-side mode. So that way you can get a nice sign of the speakers in addition to the slides as well. Also, during the webinar, feel free to leave questions or comments. There's the ability to do that in the Zoom toolbar. And so just put in any question or comment. Ty is going to help me field any of those, and we'll get all of those answered during the session. So next up, I would like to introduce Rob Graham, the owner of Tree Masters Tree Service out of Ohio. So Rob, if you don't mind, just maybe give a little background on yourself and your business to start.
Sure. Thanks, Sean. As Sean mentioned, my name's Rob Graham. I own Tree Masters Tree Service. We're based out of Medina, Ohio. I purchased the company about 2 years ago. My background was business management and sales management throughout my career, mainly in construction, building products, and plastics. I was out looking to acquire a business and came across this opportunity, a very attractive business, well-established, been in business for well over 20 years with a great brand recognition within the community. But I didn't have the tree experience. So I was fortunate, and one of the appealing pieces of the puzzle was that it was a very experienced team, and which allowed my transition to go much smoother. I've since been running the business on a daily basis. I'm definitely an on-hand owner. I'm there every day, work on scheduling. And I quickly came on board with SingleOps. One of the first things I recognized was the need to automate the business, get away from the carbon copies, and the ability to have a tracking system and use the software to help grow my business, which has definitely been a big part of what I do as we continue to transition and increase the usage within the SingleOps software system. So, but yeah, I mean, I consider myself a new owner. I learn something new every day, but I've enjoyed the business, and I, probably face a lot of the same challenges as everyone on this call when it comes to personnel issues and hiring, and just glad to be a part of the call.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you for joining us. I think you're going to offer some unique insight here. So let's just roll right into it. And more of a general question to get started. But obviously, this year has had its unique set of challenges so far. So I'm just curious, how has your team handled this year so far? Maybe as compared to last year, and how are you guys doing anything new or special?
Sure. It has been a unique year, and for us, for many reasons. Obviously, dealing with the COVID situation. That is something that, we had to work through as a business. I have 7 employees, so we're not a huge company. But, those were conversations we had to have. I needed to make sure everyone was comfortable with the situation. We were able to continue working. We do have a land clearing business, so we were able to continue doing land clearing because construction was considered essential. We've also had some turnover. And we've also, I've had to hire people, bring on, I usually run 3 to 4 guys through the winter, but I've had to quickly ramp up a little bit because not only just the busy season approaching, but we had tornadoes hit right through our town, probably about 2 weeks after the state of Ohio shut down. So we were inundated with work pretty quickly. So we had to ramp up pretty fast. And, we did the best we could and manage that process the best we could. And now we're kind of settling in on the, typical business for the remainder of the year and managing that process.
Well, that's great. So essentially, I think, where I'm going to start with my next question, I'm going to start with some internal questions and how you guys are handling some of the stuff in addition to going then to the external side. So I think you're going to provide some great perspective, given that you've done some hiring and staffing this year, which I'm sure most folks on the call have also done, because spring is kind of the most common time to be doing that. So the next kind of thing I'd love to discuss is your strategy for driving high team morale during challenging times. Whether, we can talk about your team morale during now, but of course, I'm sure, just as any business owner has seen, there are challenging times that are going to present themselves, and it's critical to have team morale at a high at all times. And so, what's your strategy to combat this and make sure you guys are having high team morale, especially during when it's challenging?
Right. No, and it is tough, especially during these times. And as we ramp up and we get busier and it gets hotter out, and things become more challenging, and there's more pressure on the employees to get more work done and be more efficient. So one of the things I've implemented, and I did this last year, and I try to keep it simple and basic, because I think if the employees understand it, if they can see it and they get a good perspective, they buy in. So, I put together a weekly goal, and I've got a little board, and I put the daily sales figures, and I put a weekly revenue goal. And so I separate the tree work from the land clearing and log sales, which we do. And I put a goal for each week. And if we hit those goals, I'll offer them some type of incentive, whether it be gift cards or things like that, or, doing a lunch or something. I was amazed. I will tell you, I was amazed at how quickly those guys would walk in. They'd want to see the revenue from the day before to see where we're at from our goal and what it was going to take to achieve those objectives. I put some, criteria on it. The numbers needed to be reached without hitting overtime, things like that. So it wasn't a layup for them. It took effort, but those were the numbers that if we were hitting those goals, the company was successful, and they were able to quickly see it. They understood it, and they felt like part of the solution, and that kept them motivated. I was just amazed at how every morning they'd come in and talk about it and be looking at the board to see where we're at.
That's an awesome strategy. A question on that. So we do that at SingleOps. One of the things I've found difficult is setting that right number when it comes to a goal that's tracked to it. Because if you're too ambitious, then people just say, "Oh, I'm not going to do that," and it doesn't have the impact you want. But then if you're if you're too conservative, then you're potentially leaving performance on the table. So how have you? What kind of process have you used to actually get to that number that you're setting for that weekly goal?
Really, for me, it's understanding what we need from a daily revenue number based on my employees, and what we need to do to achieve the budget for the day. And so, I would try to explain that to them in simple terms without going into much detail, but, here's what's going to help this business be successful so we can reinvest and continue to maintain our equipment. And, they bought in pretty easily, to be honest with you. Like I said, I kept it simple. I made it visible, and I think that was a huge help.
And by making it visible, how are you doing that? Is it like a dashboard in the office? Is it an email you send out?
Yeah, it's just a whiteboard in the office that I just use. I've got the columns, and I just write each day up there as it happens, and what the numbers are, and just a dry erase board is all it is. And I just put it up there, and so they can see every day what the revenue is, and they know where we're at. And I just put each day I total it, so they see where we're at for the week. And like I said, there's weeks that we get things fall in our lap and we get a huge bump, and there's weeks that we might not get a job complete. And so what I've told them is, if I can't invoice the job as complete, it doesn't count this week. So there are criteria that are laid out that they understand, but when they can see it and have that visibility, it just makes it a lot easier.
Okay, makes complete sense. And I've seen a lot of companies employ something similar with positive results. Are there any other strategies that you guys are using to help with team morale?
One of the things I've done recently, and thankfully, because this kind of goes into the process of hiring people, is also to kind of develop people internally. I've recently, as I've had some turnover, I've been able to replace or move some people internally that I've been trying to develop. And as they see people internally get opportunity to develop into a more responsible role, or into kind of learning a new part of the business, like a crane operator or a crew leader. When I hire from within for those types of positions, I think that brings some confidence to the guys. It gives them an opportunity to shoot for increased pay potentially, and further responsibility. And I think regardless of the level they get brought in at, when they see internal people hired or promoted, I think that definitely keeps people motivated as well.
Yeah, that can have a huge impact. We always look internally before we look externally when we need to staff a position. And yeah, when folks are able to see it, then they think that they could be next, and if they perform, then they could. So, all right, well, two great tidbits there. Happy to stay on this one if you've got any other strategies regarding the team morale you want to discuss, or we can move on to the next.
No, I think little things go a long way. Every now and then I love to just get out on the jobs and stop by, see the guys. And when I do that, I always bring something, some water, some Gatorades, or lunch, or things like that. And little things like that, I think, always go a long way with them as well. And then they're definitely appreciated.
I think so. For us, we've got a team member who remembers everyone's birthdays and special occasions. she's like internalized all that stuff that comes out of Facebook, I guess, and she'll post it. And so that little stuff, I think, means a lot to folks.
Yep.
Well, great. All right. So moving more kind of externally, you said that you've done some hiring this year. So really want to know kind of from what you've seen, in the market, like, have you ever seen any kind of changes that are different from what you've seen last year? And, how might you be responding to those changes?
Right. It's always been challenging for me to find people in the market. Typically, and I'm sure it's probably normal, is you see a lot of the same guys that are, moving from company to company, and it obviously raises the flag, and you kind of have to dig into that and understand it better. I've been fortunate that I've been able to use people internally that know people in the industry, that have some experience. So I've been able to pull that. The one thing I've started doing is really using my Facebook a lot more, and even to it's and ask the drug. That's probably one of the bigger obstacles. But when you can find that person, you really have to be aggressive and try to provide something unique. I do, for my size business, I think we provide good benefits. We do provide medical, dental, and vision for our employees, and we have a simple IRA that we match up to 3%. So when you can provide benefits like that, I think it definitely helps your chances, and it helps you retain some people. But then there are times when, there's nothing you can do to keep the people. They just need to move on. But I think having those types of benefits and things like that help us retain some of the people and attract people that aren't able to get those from other companies.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things we see is the difference between, what percent do you cover? Is it a 50-50 match with those policies? Do you provide full coverage? So I'd love to know whatever your details you're able to share, how you guys are able to do that to stay competitive.
So currently we do a 50-50. The previous owner did not do that. So that is something I stepped up when I took over to offer a little bit additional. He also only had medical. He didn't have dental and vision. So I've added that. I continued that. One of the things I try to do too, to incentivize the people and let them know that, as the company grows and becomes profitable, and the more we do, I want to enhance those benefits. So for example, I offer those benefits currently for the employees only. But the next step would be to offer it for their entire family, with the company paying a percentage of it, which we're required to pay 50% if we offer it. So the thing I told them I would do as the company grew was to add dental and vision, which I did. So that was something I did in the first year. Now my goal is the next time around to hopefully be able to increase the benefits so that they have children or spouses that need to be covered, I would like to be able to do that in the future.
Okay. Well, great. Well, so it sounds like you've seen, kind of a lot of the same folks kind of moving from company to company, or you see that obviously a red flag. Have you seen any increase in available labor based on, folks potentially getting laid off or furloughed in other industries?
I was expecting to see more, to be honest with you. I haven't seen as much as far as tree experience. I prefer to hire people that specifically have the tree experience. The last guy I hire in a crew is the ground guy that I have more flexibility on. I think the tree guys are staying busy, and so it's still been a challenge to find good tree experience for new employees. But again, I try to utilize the benefits and other things that we offer to attract people, and that's what I've had to do. But no, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I can see that because in a lot of industries where you can easily kind of hire someone from another industry that might be being let off, we'll say restaurants,
Right.
hospitality, travel, but I feel it could be difficult to transition some of those folks quickly to a tree crew or crew that needs more specialized labor.
Yeah, it's a unique skill set, and due to the nature, the even guys, I'll have people come in and say, oh, I've cut down a lot of trees. My parents have a farm. It's totally different. And so, I'm cautious of that. And so as a new owner, as somebody new in the industry, I really want to make sure I get people that have experience, because I need good people around me to help me as I continue to learn the business.
And so does all the staffing you've done on the tree care crew side, have you done anything in the office or internal or anything else like that?
Yeah, I hired a girl, is actually a good family. She works from home. I brought her in as to answer all my phones, scheduling all the appointments in SingleOps, whether it be for estimates, things like that. So she's been a huge help for me. And, I was fortunate that it's a very good friend of our family. She was stay-at-home mom, and she was just looking something that was flexible. So I was able to set her up with the phone and the laptop, and, she can work from home, and, her and I communicate. So that's been really nice. But, again, that was, an easy connection I had. Probably would have been a little more challenging had I had to go out and search for that role. But she's been great, and it's been a huge help.
Well, good. Well, this is something I'm uniquely curious on because we're hiring at SingleOps, and we've certainly seen some changes from our side of things, just an influx in qualified labor for our positions. So for anyone on the webinar who'd want to give some kind of detail about how they're seeing that in their area, would love to learn if you're seeing, more available labor, more qualified labor, less, same as last year. So anything anyone wants to share, that would be awesome. But otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next question. And so sounds like we've already covered a couple things that relate to this in terms of tactics to use to recruit and retain the best talent. Talked about benefits being one of them, internal hiring. But is there anything else that you do, in particular that we haven't covered when it comes to recruiting and retaining your best folks?
No, I mean, most of what we've covered is what I do. The only thing additional I would add is just, as I mentioned, the social media, utilizing Facebook. And then I use Indeed. So I've had some success with Indeed. The example I'll give there is I had posted a position because I'm looking to expand to the PHC. And I was specifically looking for somebody that was already certified and had the skill set to launch that business. And I was able to find somebody. I have an offer out, so I'm hoping I can make that happen. But I was able to use Indeed to attract him, and we'll see how that goes. But those have been the two forms that I have used to recruit talent.
So we use Indeed as well at SingleOps, and we found a lot of success there. That seems to kind of be the go-to place that kind of will aggregate quite a few other of the job posting websites, as well as they've just got a really good presence on their own. So we've seen success there as well.
And I did a small upgrade, and I think it's a small upgrade to do it. But if you get in there, you can upgrade to an account, and it allows you to actually search Indeed for anyone that has, those types of things you're looking for. So if I want to look for an arborist or a tree climber or something like that, for a small upgrade, instead of hoping that they respond to your ad, you can actually look through Indeed to identify people that maybe have applied or put the resumes on there in the past. And that allows you to kind of go directly to them and try to reach out to them. So, that's just the one next step for a small fee. And I was able to do that as well. And I found a couple names and was able to pull people in, or at least have conversations with them. And I think that's also maybe something that would be helpful with Indeed.
Yeah. Well, that's also really optimistic to hear that type of labor is now kind of being able to be found and recruited and hired on Indeed. Because for quite a bit of time, it was just they weren't on those types of online job posting type websites. Whereas we've been able to hire folks on the software side for quite some time there. The fact that that's maturing and that you're able to find a qualified candidate there and potentially hire them is really good, positive, would be a positive development for the industry at large.
Yep.
Well, great. All right. Well, so we'll move on to our last question. I believe this is last, right? Yep. And so discussion topic, a general one, but would love to go into anything we haven't discussed, tactics that you're using to drive top performance from your team. Feel free to plug SingleOps if you want. But anything else that you guys are doing that's unique or that you would want to talk about just to get the best out of your guys.
Right. For me, just to kind of, and truthfully, to talk a little bit about how I use SingleOps, to me, it's using the metrics to make sure as a business, I'm doing what I need to do. I'm using it as a tool to, really follow up on all our leads. And then as we convert them to proposals and then, following up on all the proposals. So I have no doubt that utilizing that system, utilizing SingleOps to do emails, to follow up on proposals and things like that, has definitely helped drive my business. I look at the metrics daily, just the basic metrics to understand emails, proposals, active jobs, how many jobs we've closed. So for me, that's just an internal thing that I do on a daily basis, just to understand how we're doing. I also use it because, I can quickly look to see how many active jobs we have. And really for me, it's more about dollar value. Because that dollar value, based on what I believe we do on my estimate on a weekly basis, will help me determine when I need to add an additional crew. So my decisions on adding crews are all financially driven, and I'm able to pull the data out of SingleOps to say, okay, my backlog's getting to this. So if I bring on a second crew, and maybe it's just a small 2-man crew to do jobs, 2 to 3 days a week, something like that. All right, so that's $6,000 to $10,000 a week. Maybe I get additional. All right, is the revenue potential there going forward to justify that? So that's what I use SingleOps for on a daily basis. It does help drive my decision on when to add additional people and crews to be successful based on the amount of backlog we have. And then the daily statistics on how we're doing with closures and follow-ups and leads and proposals. So it's been great. Again, I don't have anything more that we haven't discussed as far as specifically driving top performance for my team. I do go over and review the SingleOps information with them. We're not fully implemented to where I would like to be and have them utilizing it as much as I would like, but that's all part of the process, and I'll continue to kind of evolve with SingleOps and the crews.
Well, that's great. So using data to drive performance, both internally with your team, being transparent with them, reviewing it weekly, great practice. And then also using that to understand when you need to staff. So you're not making that decision without, really good data backing it. So all that's great stuff. Well, so Rob, basically last thing, as it pertains to labor challenges, maybe current opportunities, any final advice that you'd love to give?
The one thing I would say is, coming from other industries and having experience in other industries, I've probably been more open. I haven't been stringent with initial expectations or qualifications when bringing people in. I've been much more open to bringing people in that maybe in the past I might not have brought in based just on resume. So what I have found is, being a little bit more open in the process and bringing people in maybe in the past you might not have for reason, and having a conversation and understanding that better. Because if I can get somebody in that I think has potential, I trust that within our team, we can help shape and mold that person to be a good employee. So, I think that's important to maybe be a little bit more open-minded in the process and maybe not as narrowly focused on specific things we have to have or we think we have to have. Because if you have a good team in place, then, you can utilize those people to help mold somebody into that person that you're hoping to get. So I just think that's important in this industry, to be open and flexible with people, obviously without jeopardizing safety or things like that. But you need to be more flexible, and hopefully you can do more development internally to get them into the type of employee you're looking for.
I think that's important. And just, that allows you to welcome folks into the industry that may not have the experience prior. And allows you to grow them internally. So,
Yep.
Well, great advice, Rob. Really appreciate having you. As always, we will post a recap and a recording on this on our blog and also on social media. So if you want to review anything or share with anyone else, please do so. But otherwise, looks like we're clocked in right about 30 minutes, which is perfect timing. So Rob, again, appreciate having you, and best of luck with your business the rest of the spring and throughout the year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right. We'll talk to you soon. And everyone else, thanks for joining.